Have you ever thought about how tragic Remus Lupin's fate truly was? What if his life was even harder than Harry Potter's, filled with pain, loss, and sacrifice? In today's video, you will discover the untold struggles of one of the most tragic characters in the wizarding world. Remus Lupin's story is one of sorrow and resilience. Born a half-blood wizard, his life changed forever when a cruel revenge turned him into a werewolf at the age of 5. His father's careless words against werewolves enraged Fenrir Greyback, a future Death Eater who attacked the young boy, cursing him with lycanthropy. From that night on, every full moon became a nightmare, transforming into a beast, craving flesh, losing himself in an uncontrollable hunger. His parents feared he would never be accepted into Hogwarts, but Albus Dumbledore gave him a chance. A secret sanctuary was created for him, the infamous Shrieking Shack, where he endured lonely, painful transformations. Despite his fears of rejection, he found true friendship in James Potter, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew. They did the unthinkable, became animagi to support him through his suffering. For the first time, Remus felt he wasn't alone. After school, his life took a darker turn. The war against Voldemort raged on, and he fought alongside the Order of the Phoenix. But one by one, he lost everything. James and Lily were murdered. Sirius, his closest friend, was branded a traitor. Peter was presumed dead. With no family, no friends, and no future, Remus wandered in despair, struggling to find work. Society saw him as nothing more than a monster. Isolated and broken, he withdrew from the world. Then Dumbledore returned, with an offer that reignited a spark of hope. Remus became a professor at Hogwarts, teaching defense against the dark arts. He was a brilliant teacher, beloved by students. But the past came crashing back. When Sirius escaped Azkaban, everything changed. The truth unraveled. Sirius was innocent and Peter was the real traitor. Yet before justice could be served, Remus made one fatal mistake. He forgot to take his wolfsbane potion, lost control, and transformed in front of everyone. His secret was out. Fearing he had put students in danger, he resigned, once again, an outcast. When Voldemort returned, Remus rejoined the Order, risking his life as a spy among werewolves. He met and fell in love with Nymphadora Tonks, but guilt consumed him. Could a werewolf have a family? Could he protect them? Despite his fears, he and Tonks married and had a son, Teddy. For the first time in his life, Remus had something to live for. But happiness was fleeting. The final battle for Hogwarts began, and he fought bravely. He faced Antonin Dolohov in a duel that would be his last. His wife Tonks perished soon after at the hands of Bellatrix Lestrange. Their newborn son was left an orphan, just like Harry. Remus Lupin was posthumously awarded the Order of Merlin First Class, the first werewolf to ever receive it. His death marked a turning point in the relationship between wizards and werewolves. His life was one of endless struggle, loss, and sacrifice. He was a man who had every reason to give in to bitterness, yet he remained kind, brave, and loyal until the very end. And that is what makes him one of the most extraordinary characters in the entire Harry Potter series. Have you ever wondered what happened after Remus Lupin's tragic death? What if his sacrifice changed the wizarding world in ways no one could have imagined? In today's video, you will uncover the hidden legacy of the werewolf who fought for a world that never truly accepted him. The Battle of Hogwarts ended in triumph for the light side, but for those who survived, victory was bittersweet. In the Great Hall, among the fallen, lay Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks side by side. They had fought until their last breath, giving everything for a future they would never see. When the battle dust settled, their loss became a wound that would never fully heal. Harry Potter, still reeling from everything that had transpired, approached the bodies of his former professor and his friend. He remembered Remus not just as a fighter, but as a mentor, a man who had guided him through dark times with wisdom and kindness. As he knelt beside them, he felt a deep sense of injustice. Remus had fought all his life, only to fall at the very end, leaving his son an orphan. The very thing he had feared the most had come to pass. The wizarding world slowly began to rebuild itself, but the stigma against werewolves did not disappear overnight. Despite Lupin's heroism, many still saw his kind as dangerous. The Ministry, under the new leadership of Kingsley Shacklebolt, worked to undo the damage caused by years of fear-mongering. The new policies granted more rights to werewolves, but the scars of prejudice were deep. Even after death, Remus's battle was not over. Teddy Lupin grew up surrounded by love, raised by his grandmother, Andromeda Tonks. Harry, who had named him godfather in his honor, played a large role in his upbringing. Teddy was different from other children, not because of lycanthropy, he had been spared that curse, but because he had inherited his mother's ability to change his appearance at will. Yet even without the werewolf curse, he carried the weight of his father's legacy. As he grew older, Teddy sought out stories of the father he never knew. He spoke with those who had fought alongside him. He listened to Harry's tales of their time at Hogwarts, of the nights in the shrieking shack, of the way his father had faced every battle with quiet determination. He heard from Kingsley about the missions Remus had undertaken in secret, infiltrating the werewolf packs, risking his life to ensure Voldemort's plans never succeeded. And he read the countless letters and notes his mother had left behind, filled with love for a man who had always doubted whether he was worthy of it. Teddy wanted to honor his father in more than just name. He wanted to finish the fight Remus had started. As he came of age, he saw that werewolves were still feared, still shunned from society. They struggled to find work, forced to live on the outskirts of the magical community as his father once had. It was a painful reality, one that made Teddy question why his father had given so much for a world that had given him so little in return. But then he remembered who Remus Lupin was. A man who had chosen kindness over hatred, a man who had never allowed his suffering to turn him into a monster, a man who, despite all the pain, had believed in a better world. Teddy knew that if his father had lived, he would have continued to fight, not with wands and curses, but with patience and understanding. And so Teddy decided to do the same. He joined the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, not as an enforcer, but as an advocate. He met with werewolves who had been cast out, listened to their stories, and worked to dismantle the prejudices that had haunted them for centuries. He pushed for new legislation, creating programs to help integrate werewolves into society, giving them access to wolfsbane potion and stable employment. It was an uphill battle, one that took years, but with Harry's influence and Kingsley's support, change finally began to take root. Remus's legacy grew beyond the laws and policies. His story became one of inspiration, told in classrooms at Hogwarts, written in wizarding history books. He was no longer just the werewolf professor, but a hero who had fought not just against Voldemort, but against the deep-seated fears that had plagued the wizarding world for generations. His name was spoken with reverence, not in whispers of fear. Years later, when Teddy stood at his father's grave, he no longer felt the emptiness he once had. He had spent his life fighting for the world his father had dreamed of, and he knew, deep down, that Remus would have been proud. He knelt down, pressing a hand against the weathered stone, and whispered, "I hope I made you proud, Dad." The wind carried his words into the silent night. And somewhere, In the echoes of time, it felt as if a quiet, warm voice answered back. "You have